12:35, three-man front. While we're waiting on the Southern gentleman, Brett Norsworthy, his college football season debut here on the show. He joins us throughout the year, but had a little bit of a break. We last saw Brett their SEC Media Days in Atlanta.
He was our neighbor.
Yep. Text line is open. Interesting text coming in. Philip in Hoover. Text into the show, going back to the Stallions UFL. Let's be real. The only way the Stallions stay is if the city buys up the tickets for their own interest with a facility and development in that entertainment area. If that's the case, they should just go. The damage is done, and I will never give the league another dime.
Well, joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline from a city that was once, I assume that they're not going to have a team next year, and that is the wonderful city of Memphis, Tennessee. They had the Showboats for a couple years. Brett, it looks like Birmingham potentially could go the same road as your Showboats are in the UFL.
Yeah, I saw my last Showboat game in 1985 when they got beat in the playoffs by the Oakland Invaders. And then 40 years later, I saw my last one. I don't think it'll be another one in 40 years.
I concur. I agree with that. Okay, so enough of the spring football. Let's talk about the football that we're all fired up about. It's going to take place in 2 days. And, of course, we've got everything kicking off next week. And just tell us about what you've heard in fall camp for the Ole Miss Rebels as they get ready. As Lane Kiffin this year, this team is a little bit under the radar as opposed to what it was last year.
Well, it's a lot of new. It's a lot of new for everybody now in college football and college sports every year, but even particularly for Ole Miss, because in the Lane years, you know, he was used to looking out there and seeing number 2, whether it was Matt Corral or Jackson Dart. Now he'll look out there and he'll see number 13, and he'll see a player that's ready to go. And I think will be big time, and be big time early in Austin Simmons. And he'll just be the third Ole Miss left-handed quarterback that I ever can remember, and he'll be the first since Brent Schaefer. But the first Ole Miss left-hander that I remember also wore number 13 from Vestavia Hills, Paul Head.
Paul Head, I remember that.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And Paul, I was not with Ole Miss then on the radio crew, but covered a lot of games and was around a lot. And Paul is much beloved in the Ole Miss football universe and was universally acclaimed as a great teammate. So we look out there and we see a lefty number 13.
Heck yeah. As far as the left-handed quarterback, Austin Simmons, who he's going to be throwing to, who is that wide receiver room, who's standing out? Who should our listeners be looking for this season, Brett?
Oh, it's a lot of new names. And Lane Kiffin has said he thinks it's the deepest receiving group that he's had at Ole Miss, and I agree. But I think it starts with Caden Lee. He's a returning player, been in the program 2 years, played great in the Peach Bowl 2 years ago, and was, kind of the third, fourth option a lot of times through the years. And now he's being asked to be this year's Mr. Reliable, like Jordan Watkins so often was. And now Watkins looks like he's going to make the 49ers and contribute with them. But it starts with Caden Lee, and then there's a lot of, different names. Transfer from Penn State, transfer from here and there and everywhere like it is in college football. But it's deep and it's loaded and it tied in. The first name is Daquan Wright, who played really well last year, had a big bowl game in the Gator Bowl against Duke. And then Ole Miss was really counting on Luke Haas. He's been hurt. It's going to be a while into the year, but they're counting on Caleb Odom to get a lot of catches at tight end, not at wide out.
All right, let's talk about the defense, because I was doing a little bit of math, but 7 years before Pete Golding arrived in Oxford, Ole Miss's defense typically ranked around 50th in America. And since Pete Golding has been there, the defense has surged to the point to where now Pete Golding is one of the highest paid assistant coaches in all of college football, and Ole Miss is a top 10 defense. Talk to us about that group that we used to call the Land Sharks and what's anticipated for the Ole Miss defense this year under Pete Golding.
I think it has a chance to be just as good as last year. Yes, a lot of the names are going to be different, and most of the defensive names have been through the normal high school recruiting, old-fashioned recruiting in state, Centarian Perkins and Cam Franklin and others. And we got Princely Umanamiellen's brother transferring from Nebraska, Princeville Umanamiellen. Can't walk through the Grove without running into a Umanamiellen these days at Ole Miss. But Deshaun Womack from LSU will be counted on at defensive end. I think the Ole Miss defense will be just as good as last year and pretty loaded up front and at linebacker. The question for most right now is in the secondary, but I think there's enough back there to have it covered, starting with Chris Graves, another player that's been in the program 2 previous years, and he played well in that Peach Bowl win over Penn State 2 years ago and had good spot duty last year. But now really kind of the defensive version of Caden Lee, it's your time, really being counted on.
Brett Norsworthy joining us here on Three Man Front, WHBQ, talented radio host there in Memphis, Ole Miss Radio Network as well. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. As we zoom out from that program, look at the SEC as a whole. Who is that team, Brett, as we enter week 1 of the season from the Southeastern Conference that you are approaching with cautious trepidation, if you will?
I think it's probably South Carolina. I know it's South Carolina, and it's my boldest preseason take. I'm not buying any of that. I have South Carolina going 5-7.
Mark that.
Okay. All right.
No, him saying that, Brett's going to look like a genius because he would be the only person that I've heard say 5-7.
And next week, I promise you, Virginia Tech will be my ain't scared lock of the year, straight up. But that's not my pick this week. This week it's my good buddy Dan Mullen laying 26.5 with UNLV. Give me Idaho State plus 26.5. They're going to own Vegas. They own that state.
Wow, he's already come out of the
We've
gate
already
on
got
fire.
our I ain't scared bold prediction. All right, we got Idaho State plus the 26.5 over the Fighting Dan Mullins.
Yeah, he's got that.
And you got next week with the Hokies, so got it covered next week. No, I'm not buying any of it with South Carolina. I mean, you look at that schedule, and there's nobody out there that should have South Carolina with more than 9 wins. Opening day against Virginia Tech, then against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. Then they go to the other Columbia against Mizzou. They have to go to Baton Rouge. They get Oklahoma. They get Alabama at home. This ain't 2010. It's not going to happen to Bama there. South Carolina will be the flop of the year.
Okay, so at one point in time, you and I talked during the early months of the summer, and just our schedules just never meshed together. You were our neighbor in Atlanta during SEC Media Days, but you were on the air a lot, and we were on the air, and so we could never able to get you by to join us from SEC Media Days. But you and I had a previous conversation, and you were figuring out the conference for 2025, and I apologize that I do not have this answer to this question. That's why I'm asking you on the air. But at one time, you were telling me that you anticipated, as you were working through the season, that there might not be a 10-win team in the Southeastern Conference. Did you go ahead and finalize that potential prediction, or
No.
do you have someone that's actually going to crack the double digits in wins?
The first time I did summertime W's and L's in lightly shaded pencil, and I did it, and it without kind of having to pencil whip it, except for 2. I had 8 9-3 teams, and then I figured it to get to 10. Well, I've moved away from that final prediction. I'm going to have 4 10-win teams, but I don't know how much I trust that. I really think I trusted my first inclination back in the summer, and you know who else trusts me? Las Vegas. There's not a single SEC team that has a bigger over-under number than 9.5. There's not anybody at 10, and the days of Alabama and Georgia being at 11 and 11.5 season win totals. So I think Vegas thinks like I do, really good, but it is dispersed. It is spread out. It is very equal. But I have settled in on 4 at 10-2, and that's my 4 SEC playoff teams. That's Georgia and Alabama. That's my SEC championship game. And LSU and Ole Miss also being 10-2. Maybe bolder than South Carolina at 5-7. I've got Texas 9-3, and that's losing opening day at Ohio State, and then during the season losing to Georgia and at Texas A&M.
You always deliver, Brett. And to be that was your I Ain't Scared bold prediction for week 0, correct? Idaho State plus the 26.5. You got a feel on any other games?
These games do matter. Remember a year ago on week 0, what if SMU doesn't come back late against Nevada and win that game? how different the rest of the season could have played out.
There's no doubt. I'm going to be locked in on Hawaii coming up Saturday evening.
And favored in that game on CBS, big CBS, Gary Danielson on CBS Saturday night. But also this about Texas, and as much as I love them, and they are, and they've earned it, first name of SEC football, it's the Mannings. But among the three Mannings and now the fourth that have played, we've got a grand total of one SEC championship ever, and that was Peyton in '97 beating Auburn.
And that's something. And then, of course, Tennessee won the national championship. A lot of people forget it was a quarterback from the state of Alabama that won Tennessee a national championship in 1998. Peyton Manning was already gone. So
he was gone. He was a rookie, setting a rookie record for interceptions with the Colts that year.
Sure was. Brett, we are so thrilled, so happy that you've agreed to join us again weekly as your typical 12:30 spot on Thursdays. We look forward to the rest of the Southeastern Conference getting into the fun next week, but look forward to a great season.
Thanks, Brett.
It is an honor to be on with y'all, and y'all enjoy the games. Away we go. Here we are.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it very much. Brett Norsworthy from WHBQ in Memphis. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Stuff that Brett just told us we'll discuss, as well as your text. We'll get to the Jocks text line, 205-834-9450. The Thursday edition of Three Man Front rolls on here on Jocks.